As far as the cities and kind of the way that people just live in Ukraine, the cities are a little bit different than they are here, especially if you're in Utah. I mean, the streets are all very broad and very straight and things like that, whereas in Ukraine they're winding and they're really kind of older and they're very, very narrow. And the traffic there, very few people have cars, and so I have no idea why there are so many cars on the street, because it always seems like the streets were just packed with cars. But I knew very few people who actually had a car, so I don't know where all the other cars were coming from. But then in the cities, there are a lot of huge apartment buildings, just tons of really tall, big apartment complexes. They're usually made out of some sort of concrete, and just very, very big. There are also a lot of older, kind of more European style looking buildings, some that were built in the 1800s and the 1700s, and it's really cool to kind of see that and to think, oh my goodness, this has been around as long as my country has existed, and it's kind of cool. It's neat to get that sense of history. And the people there, they, like I said, very few of them have cars, and so they'll usually either walk or they'll take public transportation. They have a really good public transportation system. They have these things called marshrutki, which are kind of like buses, but a little bit different, kind of a little smaller. That's probably the primary form of public transportation, and you can get a marshrutka that takes you anywhere in the city. Generally, if you know where it's going, they'll have signs in the window that tell you the different stops that they'll go to. And they also have trolley buses, which just kind of run up and down the streets on their little electric wires. And so you'll see a lot of people who will be walking around or taking those. The people there, they dress a lot more nicely than we do here in America, in the sense of it's rare to see people who would go outside in just like a t-shirt and jeans and then just like tennis shoes or something. They'll usually wear nicer shoes, and they'll take good care of their shoes. It's a really big deal to polish your shoes in Ukraine. It's a really big deal. And so I would definitely say for missionaries who are going there to make sure that they keep their shoes polished. But also, if you're going to go do a service project or something like that, you might feel a little bit out of place because you'll be walking around just like in your t-shirt and maybe jeans and your tennis shoes or something. And you'll look around and you'll notice that everybody else looks a lot more put together than you do. But it's kind of cool that they consider it kind of an act of respect to the people that they'll be seeing outside. So even just to go to the grocery store or something like that, people will tend to dress up for that, and you'll see people walking around in suits or things all the time, just kind of to show some respect. I thought that was an interesting part of the culture. Also, because they do walk around so much, the streets almost always have people on them. So that's good for missionary purposes. You can contact the people who are there, and you'll for sure find some people. But you'll also learn that there are certain areas that are too busy for contacting. If you stop, then people will bump into you. And you'll find that there are some places where there are very few people walking around. So you kind of learn how to tell the places that have a lot of people walking there, but not necessarily too many. And those are usually like the parks and things like that. Those are usually the better areas for missionary work for contacting purposes.